The 2023 men's semi-final at Wimbledon between Carlos Alcaraz and Daniil Medvedev has the potential to be a very interesting matchup. This is because of the contrast in styles. You have Alcaraz, who plays the whole court aggressive game, and then you have Daniil Medvedev, who's such a great counter-puncher, and he's very good at defending. So you have that contrast between the attacker versus the defender, especially on grass. Now, they have played twice in the past, Medvedev winning the first encounter, which was at Wimbledon in 2021. This is before Alcaraz became a real force in men's tennis. And the second matchup was won by Alcaraz this year at the Indian Wells 2023 final. Now, he won 6-3, 6-2. It was a very convincing win, and it shows you that with the attacking game of Alcaraz, he has the potential to really dominate someone like Medvedev if Medvedev doesn't change a few key things. One of the keys to victory for Daniil Medvedev will be his return of serve position. If he stands very far back as normal, he's going to really struggle to break serve and apply pressure to the Alcaraz serve. Because he likes to stand so far back behind the baseline, giving himself a lot of time to react to serves, which allows him to have such a high percentage of returns in play. But what happens is on grass, he's giving up a lot of ground, and the court is much faster than a clay court or a hard court with those new balls. Now, when the balls are a little bit more fluffed up, it starts to slow down. But at the first few games with those new balls, the balls are going to be skidding through. And Alcaraz can exploit that. He loves to open the court on both the deuce and the ad side with the wide serve. He then moves the opponent with that first shot, or he likes to serve and volley. And this is something that we've seen him do very well during the 2023 Wimbledon Championships. He also has a great weapon with that serve and then drop shot, which will work so effectively against someone who is standing so far back behind the baseline to return serve. So Medvedev will really have to analyze, is it worth me standing a little bit closer, giving up maybe a few aces here and there, maybe I make a few more mistakes on that return, but actually I'm not so far back in the court, and it allows him to then play that point in a more neutral position. Now, in their last matchup at the Indian Wells final, Alcaraz played a very smart tactical match. He chose the right balls to attack off. He knew when to actually stay in the rally and just keep the point in a neutral position. He knew when to defend well, especially with those moon balls and his slice. And then he knew when to attack. He chose the right balls to attack. He came to the net very often, and he liked to take time away from Danny. And this is something that's going to be crucial, especially when they're playing on grass. Grass will favor Alcaraz much more than a slower bouncing court where Danny has more time to defend in one aspect, but Medvedev also has the advantage that his backhand is very flat. He hits that backhand extremely flat, even opening the strings sometimes at the point of contact, which allows him to produce very little topspin on that shot. And that allows him to hit those screaming winners down the line that we see so often. So Medvedev's backhand will be a lot more potent on the grass courts, but then his forehand swing, because it's so big, he might struggle with the timing if Alcaraz can then start to pinpoint the shots towards that target, especially if he's doing it in an aggressive manner. Another important key to victory for both players will be the Alcaraz serve. How well is he serving, and how well is he able to hit those spots and punish Medvedev's return? If he's able to hold service games quite comfortably, then he'll have a lot more energy to focus on when he actually is returning. And Alcaraz does something very intelligent when he's returning serve. He changes his court positioning very often. This throws off the server because they never know where Alcaraz is actually going to be standing. Now, if you think about playing against someone who's one time returning serve on the baseline, and another time he's stepping way behind the baseline to return serve and chipping or blocking that return, it throws you off because you never know where that return is coming from, and you never know actually which serve is more effective because the returner is constantly changing their positioning. Now, if Danny can serve well, it will put a lot more pressure on Alcaraz to then focus more on his service games. But if Danny is struggling with his serve, then Alcaraz will step up. He'll take those returns early, especially the second serve, and he'll start to try to dictate play with that first shot. Something else that gives Alcaraz the huge advantage in this matchup is the fact that he likes to take the ball on the rise. He likes to take the ball early, taking time away from his opponents. And Medvedev is someone who stands so far back behind the baseline anyway. Against someone who's taking the ball on the rise, this is where you can really exploit the player who is standing 8 or 10 feet behind the baseline. especially when you're playing on a faster court like a grass court. This is where the ball tends to skid a little bit more, even though they've changed the grass, they've changed the balls to slow it down at Wimbledon, but the ball is still going to have that initial skid off the ground when someone is hitting it a little bit flatter. And if you're taking time away from the player, it's much harder to change direction on the grass court in general, and that's amplified if you have less time. Which leads us on to the question of how well Medvedev will counterpunch against someone who's attacking him, coming to the net, hitting those drop shots, and taking time away from him. If Medvedev can adjust his court positioning on the return, if he can stay a little bit closer to the baseline in the rallies, and if he's hitting that flat backhand down the line, then he has a real chance of winning this match. However, if he's standing 20 feet behind the baseline to return serve, he's going to really struggle against someone like Alcaraz, who likes to take time away from you. Another huge advantage that Alcaraz will have in this matchup is the fact that he likes to hit those drop shots so often. Now, these are deadly against any opponent, but against someone who likes to stand as far back as Danny does, this is even more lethal. And this is why I think Alcaraz has a huge advantage in this match. It's almost like the perfect matchup for Alcaraz. You've got someone who likes to stand far behind the baseline to return serve, which allows Alcaraz to land, get a bit of time, and strike with that first shot. Then you've got someone who likes to come to the net in Alcaraz, which is a massive advantage against someone who's trying to counterpunch on a grass court. And finally, you have someone in Alcaraz that likes to utilize that drop shot at any opportunity when he sees his opponent far behind the baseline. Now, if he sees Medvedev 8 or 10 feet behind the baseline and Medvedev's on the heels anticipating a powerful forehand or a powerful backhand shot, and then suddenly Alcaraz hits that drop shot, this is where Danny will really struggle, because yes, he's extremely quick, but it's hard to be extremely quick running forward, chasing those drop shots on grass. But the three real keys to the match is how well does Danny serve, which will either apply pressure to Alcaraz, or he'll then have to work much harder to hold serve, which then applies pressure to himself. Does Danny change his court positioning, standing slightly closer to the baseline, giving himself less time for the shots, but then not putting himself in such a defensive position when he's in those rallies? And finally, how well does Alcaraz attack the net and finish points with the volley? If he's successful in coming forward, taking time away from Danny, and then finishing with the volley, it's going to be a very hard match for Danny to win. I predict Alcaraz winning in 4 sets. I think this is the perfect matchup for Alcaraz, someone who likes to play defensive on a grass court. I think the attacker is always going to beat someone who likes to counterpunch and defend, especially on the faster courts. What do you guys think? Leave your predictions below. I look forward to reading all the comments. I try to reply to every single comment on a daily basis, so I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, of course, and please make sure you turn on that notification bell. Otherwise, YouTube isn't sending out notifications, so you'll miss out on our future lessons. Signing off, Coach Simon from TTT. All the best and see you soon, guys.